All right, so today I want to talk a little bit about the extension of the chef story. So we've used the chef story to add and subtract positive integers. Remember, the big things when we're thinking about the chef story is one, up until this point, addition, get a new marker, means we are adding things to the pot or to the cauldron. Subtraction means we are taking things out. And by things, we mean hot and cold cubes. Goodness. There we go. And then hot cubes represent positive integers. And cold cubes represent negative integers. Okay, so this is what we've been doing so far with our chef story. Okay, addition means adding things to the pot. Subtraction means taking things away from the pot. Hot cubes represent positive integers. Cold cubes represent negative integers. Now, all that seems fairly logical within the context of the chef story. And remember, part of the reason why that's so powerful is it helps us to represent a situation where we do something like subtract a negative. So for example, if I want to represent the situation 3 minus negative 4, well, I'm going to start with a cauldron that has an overall temperature of 3. Now, one way I could do that is just to have 3 hot cubes in there, because remember, each hot cubes represent 1 degree, so this would have temperature 1, 2, 3. Now that's great, but if I'm thinking about the meaning behind 3 minus negative 4 in terms of the chef story, this is saying this subtraction means take out, and this negative 4 means 4 cold cubes. So to represent 3 minus negative 4, I want to take out 4 cold cubes. Well, right now I don't have 4 cold cubes in there. Okay, so maybe in my starting pot I need to include some cold cubes. But notice right now, the overall temperature of my cauldron here, a hot and a cold cancel, a hot and a cold cancel, a hot and cold cancel, so I'd be left with just 1 cold. That's not what I want my starting temperature to be. I want my starting temperature to be 3, but I can cancel out by adding in some more hot cubes. So notice now I've got hot-cold pairs down here in the bottom. Each one of those hot-cold pairs cancels each other out. It has a net temperature of 0, so it's like they're not even there, meaning the overall temperature of my cauldron is 3 degrees warm, or positive 3. Okay, now we're going to take out 4 cold cubes. We've got our starting 3 degrees. We're going to take out 4 cold cubes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to take them out. That represents subtracting 4 cold cubes. And now the configuration of my pot looks like this. Okay, I took out these 4 cold cubes, leaving me with these 3 hot cubes and these 4 hot cubes. So overall, my temperature is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that tells me that 3 minus negative 4 equals positive 7. Moreover, it gives us a way to give meaning to the idea that subtracting a negative is a positive, because we can think about the fact we're taking out something that's cold. We're taking out cold cubes. That means the overall temperature increases. Okay? Now, what we want to do is we want to extend this into multiplication. Okay? So general meanings are going to be the same. We're just going to play around a little bit. So for example, if I started with this multiplication scenario, okay, 4 times negative 8. Now we're really using the grouping meaning of multiplication here. So this says I'm going to add in 4 bunches or groups of -8. So that -8 is going to be cold cubes. So of 8 cold cubes each. So I'm going to start with a pot that has temperature 0. There's more than one way I can start with a pot that has temperature 0. I could start with nothing in my pot that has temperature 0, or I could start with maybe a couple of 0 pairs. Notice that hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, those cancel, so my temperature is still 0. And I'm going to follow the instructions here. This says add in 4 bunches of 8 cold cubes each. So I'm going to add in 4 bunches. 1, 2, 3, 4 bunches. Each of those bunches is going to contain 8 cold cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Once I've done that, I will have in my pot, I started with these 3 hot cold pairs. They're still hanging out. But I also added in the 4 bunches of 8 cold cubes each. So I'm going to write those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So altogether, these guys are with 0. I've got 8, 16, 24, 32 cold cubes. So the overall temperature is -32. That tells me 4 times -8 equals -32. So we've extended our chef story to include multiplication. Let's look at another example. So let's do -3 times -5. Now again, let's think about meaning here. Okay, here we're again thinking about groups and what we're doing with those groups. Are we taking them out or are we adding them in? Because our first number is -3, we're going to take out 3 bunches. That's what this first number says. Take out 3 bunches of, each bunch is going to consist of -5 or of 5 cold cubes. So here's what this number sentence says. It says take out 3 bunches of 5 cold cubes each. Okay. So to start with, we need to draw a starting cauldron where we can do this. Okay, we always want our cauldron to start at 0. So I'm just going to add in a bunch of hot and cold pairs. I totally mixed up the color on that, didn't I? That was silly. I'm going to keep my hots as red. Sorry. And my colds as blue. Okay. I think that should be enough. So notice I've got a bunch of hot, cold pairs. Each one of them cancels each other out. So overall, I've got 0 degrees in my cauldron right now. So now we're going to follow the instructions. The instructions say take out 3 bundles of 5 cold cubes each. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 1 bundle, and I'm taking it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's another bundle, and I'm taking it out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my 3rd bundle, and I'm taking it out. So I'm removing, taking out 3 bundles. Each has 5 cold cubes in it. When we do that, let's look at what's left in our cauldron. I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So these are all gone. I have another row of hot cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But those are all gone. I've got that hot cube, that hot cube, that hot cube, that hot cube. This cold cube is gone, but I still have these 3 cold cubes in. I didn't take them out. So now let's look at what the overall temperature of our cauldron is. These cancel out, right? There's 0 pairs, so they have a net temperature of 0, meaning they're not contributing hotness or coldness to the cauldron. So I'm left unmatched with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I'm left with an overall temperature of positive 15, or 15 hot cubes. That tells me that -3 times -5 equals positive 15. Notice that what we have here is we have a way to try and give meaning to why a negative times a negative is a positive. We're taking away cold things. That means our overall temperature or our overall net worth goes up. Okay. The last thing I want to do is I want to do one example like the ones from your homework. I'm going to pause this and sketch some. Okay. So this is like the examples on the second to last page of your activity. So you're given a scenario and asked to figure out, okay, what does this mean in terms of a multiplication sentence? Okay, so here's where we're starting. We're starting here. These arrows indicate the action that we're taking. So before we have the arrows, let's make sure the temperature of our pot was 0. Before I took, look, I'm taking things out. I've got matched pairs. So before I started, my temperature certainly was 0. Notice that I'm taking things out. When I'm taking things out, that's going to be represented by a negative. I'm taking out, and how many bundles am I taking out? Looks like I'm taking out 1, 2 bundles. So I'm taking out 2 bundles. So -2 is taking out 2 bundles of, each bundle has 1, 2, 3 hot cubes in it. So here's the start of my multiplication sentence. Taking out 2 bundles of 3 hot cubes each. We want to know what that's equal to. Coming over here, here's our end result. Notice that I've just removed those 2 bundles, and I'm left with, well, these are 0 pairs. They cancel out, and I'm left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cold cubes, which I represent by -6. This tells me -2 times 3 equals -6. So that's kind of what that second to last page of your homework is asking you to do. All right, let me know if you have questions.